What is my view on 3D print? I think it's wonderful. I think it's amazing. I think it's a part of. I think it's a part of our future, and I think that. I think that there's a world where, in the next 10 years, 15 years, every house has a 3D printer, just like every house has a dishwasher and has a refrigerator.
You ready?
Uh-huh.
Alright. So, what have you used 3D printing for?
I have used 3D printing for a wide variety of things in my life. I use it primarily for work. I'm a mechanical engineer and I work remotely from home. And so 3D printing allows me to rapidly iterate on designs that I'm doing for clients. It lets me work, in the same day on a part that I'm working remotely with a coworker on who's in a different state. So we can be looking at a design online together or in our CAD system, and if we want to feel it, we can just each print it, and we have our own copies, and we have that with us right away. So that's for work. There are some times for work where I've actually designed parts that are intended to be 3D printed as their final manifestation. Mostly I'm using it for prototyping, and eventually we'll jump to another manufacturing process. But there are some times where 3D printing has actually become the final manufacturing process. Almost never the kind of 3D printing that I'm doing at home. It's usually some higher technology version of 3D printing that I'll pay a service for. And then in my personal life, I use it all the time to solve a million little problems that come up every day.
Right.
I've used it to, when I'm doing construction in my house, I've used it to make jigs to make a job easier. I've used it to fix parts that break. It's really common these days, the way that things are designed and manufactured and optimized for a $100 item to have a 15-cent piece of plastic that breaks, and all of a sudden the $100 item is worthless. So I've used it to fix those kind of things and not have to buy a new item. And then I use it a lot to help other people when they have a similar problem that can be solved by 3D printing. I mostly print things that I have designed. I use a variety of CAD programs. If it's for work, I'll use whatever CAD program my client wants me to be using. And if it's for personal, I will often use Fusion 360. That's because I have an ongoing client that pays for a license for me for Fusion 360. If I ever don't have that license, I'll use Onshape because it's free and it's a good CAD program as well. 3D printing, like any process that you design for, is as effective as how you designed for it. And so I would say that, when I'm able to take the time to really optimize something for 3D printing, I would say it is 100% effective for what I need it for. There are times where, the way, let's say I'm trying to replicate a part that broke on something I have at my house. There are times where, because that part was designed for injection molding, which is a very different technology that produces a plastic part, there are times where if I just copy that design directly, it won't be an adequate use of 3D printing, and the 3D printed parts will not be as suitable as they would be if they were molded. But if I take the time to rethink about what that design should be for the technology of 3D printing, it can be 100% effective most of the time. I think problems that most people will experience with 3D printing are the kinds of things that, I think we were talking about earlier, like, your nozzle clogs, or there's some finicky aspects of 3D printing. as far as I'm concerned, like having been involved in it for over a decade now, where we are now, 3D printing is very plug and play. It's very simple. If you buy a machine that is like reputable and well designed, you're generally not going to have very many problems with it. But there will always be some amount of tinkering with a 3D printer. There will always be things that break and that need to be fixed, just because of the fundamentals of how tricky it is to get a really good quality print. Mm-hmm. And then on a professional level, the biggest challenges that I face with 3D printing that I'm doing at home are related to the fact that when you print something, prints have what's called anisotropic features, which means that the plastic doesn't have the same properties in all three directions. And that's just because of layer lines. And layer lines cause a whole problem. Now you can often mitigate those by just printing in a different orientation. And then the other big problem with 3D printing in a professional sense is that even though they are relatively accurate, they don't actually produce particularly accurate parts relative to what you designed. So a really good example of that is there's a part that I recently designed which needed a 1.1 millimeter hole, which is, it's a small hole, but it's a hole that a printer can make. But in order to get an actual, in CAD it says 1.1 millimeters. In order to get an actual 1.1 millimeter hole, I had to do some testing where I would take the part, print it, measure the hole, and then go in and offset to account for the fact that the way the printer is laying down filament is on the order of the size of the hole that I need. Well, the weirdest thing I've 3D printed is my office right now is full of about 10 different baby heads that I've 3D printed, because the project I just finished working on was we were designing an EEG brainwave reading headset for babies that are in the neonatal ICU. And so I needed to test these headsets that I was designing on a bunch of different sizes of babies' heads. So there was a point in time where my office was just covered in 3D printed baby heads.